Well, it says we're online on Facebook. YouTube is still sending data. All right, chats are rolling in. Jay Colley, how you doing, bud? Greg, hello. Brian, hello. Benito, welcome. Scott, welcome. Bernie Menchaca, hello. Anthony, evening. Jerry Dixon, good evening. All right, now we are getting chats in from both sides, from Facebook and YouTube. So for those of you guys that jumped on last night and helped me with my little bit of testing, how does the picture and audio look tonight? Did we get things kind of situated and tuned in? Is everything looking a little better? So I know last night was, some of you said it was grainy, said you couldn't really hear, so hopefully audio and video is better tonight. So Outdoor Hunting Addiction, how you doing? Mountain Tough Outdoors, welcome. Tony Walker, welcome. Dave West, hola, ¿cómo está usted? Jacob, hey. Raymond Clark, hello. Lori, hello. Matt Lux, let's hear more. Outdoor Hunting Addiction. Benito, picture looks awesome. Brian, hi, OHA. Jay Colley, good. Little dark, really? Okay. So, a little dark on me or the background? The background's supposed to be a little bit dark. So, good, looks and sounds great. Did you have that much gray before? Dave, I know, it's amazing. We get lights and you can see it. I also see that I probably should have shaved and looked a little more presentable. Dude, your face looks good. But Maddie, I thought you said last night when it was all blurry it looked good. So I don't know whether you believe you if it was looked better blurry or if it looks better now. So, looks and sounds professional. Looks great, sounds great, looks good. Okay, so a couple of things before we dive into tonight. So hats and shirts, kind of got everything all finalized yesterday with kind of the layout and how we wanted everything in colors. So now I am just waiting for time frame for all of those. So Freddie, you made it. So little spoof on Freddie. He sent me a message a little bit ago with a sad face saying he couldn't connect to the live, but he was actually watching the test video from last night, so he made it in. So, okay, Greg, the background. Yeah, I have the background kind of darkened a little bit, so your attention's all on me, guys. So next week, we're actually going to do some different things. So looks better than last night on my end. Perfect. My channel's doing a little better. Okay, good. Quick question for you guys. You guys have heard me talk about journals, how I used to always do a journal. Well, one of the places that I am getting some of my merch from actually does have a journal that can actually have the Elk Calling Academy logo embossed into the cover. So it's a cover, it has the pages on the inside. The pen looks like I could actually retail those things for about $19.99. Let me know in the comments if you guys are interested in maybe picking up a journal like that so that you could keep your own notes in camp. So anyways, let me know. All right, let's get going. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Batiste from the Elk Calling Academy, and this is Wapiti Wednesday Q&A. If this is your first time here, welcome. Kind of what we do on Wapiti Wednesday Q&A is we start with a topic. So tonight we are going to talk about shot angles, standing versus kneeling, and also shooter setup, how to break up your silhouette. Also, in the meantime, you guys have the ability to answer or ask questions, and I will answer those as we go along. So, all right. So if you are new to the channel, if you've tuned in from YouTube, be sure that you subscribe and click that bell notification so that way you're notified every time we upload a new video or we go live for Wapiti Wednesday Q&A. If you're on the Facebook page, be sure that you like and follow the page. Also tonight we are going to announce the 2 winners for the 2 call packages. So remember, it's a Wapiti Whacker from Bugling Bull, 5 or 6 reeds from Native by Carlton, a Game Changer call. You have the reed quiver for your hat from Bendable Products, and you have 2 different reed pouches from Bendable Products, all within that kit. And we may throw in another surprise or 2 in there. You never know what we may throw in. So All right, let's look here real quick. Colors look different to hide the face. Yeah, Freddie, I'm trying to hide my face. Good evening. Phone's dying. You bet. Okay, I want a journal. Heck yes, I definitely would. I would be interested. I want one. Sounds like a winner to me. Okay, then I will get going on that order tomorrow. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about tonight is shot angles. It's definitely been coming up a lot in the last couple of days because some of the videos that are going on. So just thought we would talk about shot angles. Now, really, when you're in that situation, it's really tough to tell. So, and you've got to remember sometimes on some of this, what the camera sees and what the shooter sees are two different things. But ultimately, broadside, no brush. That is the best, highest percentage shot that there is. We all strive for that. Do we always get it? No, we don't. Next up, quartering away. Quartering away can be an extremely effective shot if you know what you're doing. There are a couple of cautions. If that quartering away angle gets too steep, and depending on the broadhead that you're shooting, you run the risk of your broadhead hitting that rib and basically turning and then sliding right up against the ribs and come right out through the shoulder. Yeah, you're going to have a blood trail, and you're going to have a blood trail and tracks that you're going to follow for a long time, but that is a non-lethal hit. And in fact, a couple of weeks ago, I talked about a bull that called in 3 times for 3 different shots. The first shot was exactly that, and that's what happened. That arrow hit that last rib, deflected, and actually stayed lodged underneath the hide, in between the ribs and the hide. Now, when you're shooting a quartering away shot, the best rule of thumb is to aim for the opposite side shoulder. If you do this, it doesn't matter how steep that quartered away angle is. If you are always aiming for that opposite shoulder, you are going to get into vitals and at least a double lung, if not liver and maybe heart. So quartering away shots are high percentage shots that will allow you to recover game. Now, I know things can happen. You can deflect off branches, you can paunch hit, you can liver hit. There's all those. I am going to do a video that's going to talk about shot angles a lot more with a 3D target, but tonight I just want to touch on each of these briefly. All right, another hot topic is the frontal shot. I have taken the frontal shot, and it's a highly effective shot if you really understand the elk's anatomy. Their brisket, you've got a heavy bone, just like our breastplate. They've got that heavy bone and heavy muscle right there. But right above that, you have a volleyball-sized soft spot that you can get an arrow in. So for me with the frontal, my rules are 20 yards or less, level or slightly downhill, absolutely no brush, and that bull needs to be calm. He can't be on guard. He can't know I'm there. If he's on guard and you can tell by his body language that he's nervous or he's on guard, the chances of him wheeling when you release the arrow are extremely high. But if he's calm and you check off all those other things, 20 yards or less, level slightly downhill, no brush, he's calm, at 20 yards, your arrow is going to get right in there, and you're going to take out the heart, the lungs, and the liver. You're going to take out every major organ. That's the shot that I took on Pitchfork this year. Major blood trail. He didn't even go 40, 45 yards. So I've heard of guys taking 40-yard frontal shots, and I just scratch my head and just ask why. So it has to be 20 yards or less. Me, no whammies. Everyone needs a game changer. Yes, they do. So I need that game changer. Evening, everyone. Game changer looks great. Sounds great. Quartering away is my favorite shot. Quartering away, I mean, it is a extremely effective shot. It's amazing how much damage you can do with that shot. But okay, let's talk about quartering two, because we know that can happen too. If it's slightly quartering to and you can still get in the pocket, you're okay. But a sharp quartering to, do not take it. I can guarantee if you try to put it in front of that shoulder, that bull's going to wheel and you're going to get it in the shoulder blade. I've seen it happen too many times with that quartering to shot of that arrow getting in the shoulder blade, and you don't get any penetration at all. So, or you just get barely enough penetration to maybe puncture one lung. So it will make for a very, very long, miserable time for you. So shot angle is critical. Number one, broadside. Second option, quartering away or frontal. But the frontal has to meet all those parameters. So, all right, so let's see. Sean Macbeth, how you doing? Okay, Jerry Dixon, placed my first arrow in elk this season using the frontal shot. Wasn't hard to track. No, if you check off those with that frontal shot, it's amazing how much damage it will cause and how quick they will go down. So it is a very, very effective shot. Matt, I'm scared to take a frontal. Matt, I understand it. I was too for the longest time because we heard frontal shots are bad. They're low percentage. Don't do them. So, but if you have control and you take your approach the right way on that frontal shot, I'll tell you what, it can be way more effective than a broadside shot. Because a broadside shot, usually you're only punching both lungs. Or if you shoot low enough, you can hit lungs and heart. Very rarely do you hit heart only without hitting a lung. But that frontal shot, I mean, you have the heart, you have the aorta, you have the lungs, you have the liver. So really, really study elk anatomy. And I've been thinking about doing, you know, some pictures here that have elk in different angles, whether side by side or frontal or quartering, with the vitals shown so you can see how those vitals. Now, that's another thing I want to back up real quick to the quartering away. Remember, as that bull quarters, your vital area actually gets smaller. So critical shot placement becomes more prevalent. So the hardering the quarter away, the shorter the distance needs to be. So, I mean, me personally, I would not take a 40-yard quartering away shot if it was a really hard, steep quartering away. The margin for error is huge. So, I mean, really, we're doing our due diligence for a quick, clean kill. So let's take high percentage shots to make that happen. So, good rule of thumb: more critical the shot, the shorter the distance needs to be. Okay, keep that in mind. Okay, Andrew, this is my first year archery hunting. Such a rookie at calling, but I'm having a blast learning and practicing. Andrew, that's the best approach right there. Have fun with this. If you always have fun with this and continue to have fun, you're always going to enjoy it. So, Matt, here's a great place to learn. Thank you. Jack, you're definitely in the right place. You know, and guys, where I've developed these rules from is over 30 years of me making mistakes or partners making mistakes and tracking animals for a long time. And I mean, if you're on a blood trail and you're tracking a bull for a long, long ways, the rock in your stomach gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So, Greg, what about frontal shots ending up in the guts? It can. Because you got to figure, depending on how long your arrow is, it's going to bury all the way up to the fletching or knock, or sometimes, depending on your bow, pass all the way through. So it is going to go through the guts too. Now, if you're shooting a lower poundage bow and it goes in, now you got to understand that broadhead's sitting there bouncing in that lung and heart and liver area, and it's just like a Vegematic slicing away. But yeah, pitchfork this year, it got all the way into the guts. So again, that's why I'm glad we do the no mess way of cleaning, or the gutless way. So don't hit them. Okay. Cynical, yo, what's up, man? Any new reviews on the Game Changer? You know what? The Game Changer is a great call. I absolutely love it. Matt Lux is on here. In fact, Matt was the one that turned me on to the Game Changer, and I'm so glad that he did. So, all right. GC calls, nice. Stephen Downey, good evening, everyone. Scott, I'm kind of good with my bow. I'd only take a frontal shot under perfect conditions, under 20 yards. Scott, that is the perfect mindset to have. So, Jerry, fixed or mechanical broadheads, what do you recommend? I shoot a fixed. So, for one, mechanicals are illegal in Idaho. Now, even if Idaho made expandable blades or broadheads legal, I'm still going to shoot a fixed broadhead. I've heard too many horror stories of mechanical blade not opening, and so to me it's just one more thing that can go wrong. So, okay, Cynical Beatbox, how do we join the giveaway? So the two ways to join the giveaway was to subscribe to our YouTube page or like our Facebook page. So, and we already have done the drawing. I can't remember, Cynical, if you had already subscribed. So, okay, Chad, good evening. In fact, you know what? Let's do it. Let's announce the YouTube winner. So here's what I thought was kind of interesting. So when I drew the YouTube winner, it was an individual that is recently subscribed to the YouTube page. But the Facebook page was one of our first followers, so it was pretty cool. So, okay, our YouTube winner is Scott's Thoughts. So, Scott, if you are on tonight or you're watching this on the replay, send me an email at michael@elkcallingacademy.com. Let me know your shipping address and also your shirt size. So, congratulations to Scott's Thoughts. So, okay. YouTube. We had 1,790 subscribers. So on the YouTube side, you had a 1 in 1,790 chance of winning it. So if you guys don't win tonight, we will have more giveaways coming up. So, okay, Lori, not sure I understand the perfect shot on the frontal. So, Lori, usually you'll see kind of where the dark brown of the neck meets the tan on the front. If you come up just above that line a little bit, you're good right on there. So what I typically do is if you really study an elk broadside where you see their leg come up and their elbow come back, and then you have that crease line. So if you think about where you want to put that arrow on the broadside and then just draw that line over to the front and use that for your elevation, you'll be good on that frontal. So, okay, Bernie, I agree. I took a bullet 8 yards coming at me. Matt, just switched to the Exodus. The Exodus is a great head. I absolutely love it. So, okay, let's do one. Here we go. Congratulations, Scott. Matt Lux. I shoot the QAD Exodus as well. They're sweet. David, thank you for chiming in. GC, whoop whoop. Mountain Tough. Nice, Scott. Nice. Congratulations on the subscribers. Daniel, best way to stop a moving elk before releasing. So, soft cow sounds. So, it's hard sometimes, especially if that elk is coming in. He's really fired up. He is just moving really quick, and you know, you're making all kinds of sounds to get him to stop. If you can't get him to stop, bark at him. So that'll get him to stop. Okay. A couple more questions and we'll drive back into the next topic. Tony Walker, I realize this is off topic, but what do you put in the journal? I've not thought of a journal. Okay, Tony, we've talked about this on past episodes. So when I first started out, you got to understand, this was the late 80s, early 90s. We didn't have YouTube. There wasn't hunting channels on TV. There wasn't a lot of videos. And so really, the only way to learn about elk was from our experiences. So one thing that I used to do was I would take a spiral ring notebook to camp with me. And when I got back to camp at night and I was eating dinner, I would write the date on the top of the page, and then I would write what the weather was, what the temperature was, elk activity I saw, uh, elk behavior I witnessed, vocalizations, encounters I had. So, excuse me, guys. So basically, I would just recap that day. And I would do that at the end of every day. Well, if you spend 10, 15 days out there hunting during the season, that's 10, 15 journal entries that you can go back through and read over and over and over again. And each time you read that, in your mind, you just replay those encounters, you replay that day, and you start to discover patterns. You start to discover behavior characteristics. You start to understand their vocalizations, because when you can see their body language coupled with their vocalizations, you understand their mindset a lot better. So that's the purpose of a journal, is just to track down your thoughts, your experiences of your area, what you're seeing, what you found, what you did, so that you can go back and learn from the experiences that you had on each and every day. Now, like I said, 10 to 15 days, you do that on a 5-year period or even a 10-year period. How many journal entries do you have that you can go back and read and learn from and improve on? So it's just like in school when you studied for a test. That's kind of what you're doing here. You're studying in the off season so that you can make the most of your time in the field during the season. So, okay, David Crane, cow call. I assume you're responding to the question about how to stop. So, Raymond Clark, what is your opinion on Luminoc? I know we can't use them in Idaho, but I've always wondered why they don't allow them besides electronics. I'm a fan of lighted nocks, and actually there is talk about Idaho going that route, because especially as today's technology progresses and the bows get faster and faster, the ability to track the shot and know exactly where you hit by tracking that illuminated nock is a huge advantage. It's a great tool. Plus, it also helps you recover the arrow, so then you can take a look at that arrow and see what kind of blood do you have. Do you have bright red blood? Do you have some bright red blood with bubbles? Do you have dark blood? Do you have green stomach matter? What type of blood or what is on that arrow will help you in determining how lethal of a hit that is and how much time you should give that animal before you start tracking. So lighted nocks, yes, I'm a fan of. So Matt Lux, I missed a buck 3 days ago and center punches a tree, dug the head out of the tree and it's still razor sharp. In the broadhead test we did this summer, the QAD, we shot it through that cultured stone, and man, that thing, all you had to do was just touch up the blades a little bit. So all right, couple more here. Exodus, Great Blood Trail, David Crane, you got it. Jack Keithley, what are you learning from the elk while you're scouting? Really, when you're scouting, Jack, the thing I look for is where the bulls are hanging out in their bachelor groups, but more importantly, where the cows and calves are. So, but also with the bulls in the bachelor groups, I'm kind of learning what bulls are in that area, what class of bulls, what size of bulls. Most of the time during the summer, especially when I set trail cameras out, I'm more excited to find cows and calves. I mean, I'll get up on higher elevations in glass so I can kind of get an inventory of the bulls in the area. But if I know where those cows and calves are, I know where those bulls are going to be at the beginning of the season. So, all right, Sean Hendricks, hello. Jay Colley, Simmons broadheads are really good. So, okay. We're going to stop there for right now. We're going to go into the next subject. Standing versus kneeling, pros and cons. I threw this question out there today. Do you stand or do you kneel? Questions were kind of split even across the board. My personal opinion and feeling on this is there's not one that is set for everything, because both of them have their pros and cons. So standing or kneeling depends on the situation of where you're at. What are the limbs like? If you're in a pretty timbered area that has low-lying limbs, sometimes kneeling down is a better option because then you're lower to the ground. Also, another advantage of kneeling down is it takes the human silhouette and shrinks it down. It gets it closer to the ground and it makes it harder to recognize for the elk. Now, a drawback to kneeling is elk are elk. They're not always going to come in that perfect path that we always want them to. So you may have to reposition a little bit. It's not as easy when you're on your knees to reposition as it is versus standing. Now, standing. If you're in an area that has some low brush, kneeling's not going to be an option. You have to stand to get above that. Another advantage of standing is you can shift to one side or the other a lot easier than what you can on your knees. Now, granted, you could wait until a bull's eyes are behind a tree in position, but the only problem is if you're on your knees and you didn't clear pine cones and brush out or branches out, there's a good chance that you're going to snap, crackle, or pop with any movement, and then that bull is going to be locked in on your position. So, standing versus kneeling, it really depends on the situation and where you're at. You'll get a gut feeling. So, I really don't think that there is one better than the other. So, and a lot of you guys did say that it really depended on the situation, and you guys are 100% right. I'm right there with you and in agreement. So, I've done both. The one thing I do know, though, is a lot of people, when they practice during the summer, how do they practice? They practice standing. They don't practice kneeling. They don't even practice with their pack on, whether they're standing or kneeling. So during your practice sessions during the summer, do some of your practice standing, do some of your practice kneeling, and do some of your practice on both of those with your pack on. Because there's going to come a time that, yeah, most of the time you're going to have the ability to drop your pack, so you don't have that. But there's times it happens so fast you don't have that ability to drop that pack. You're going to have to shoot with it on. So, okay, let me check a couple things here real quick. I think we are good. Okay, everything's perfect. Everything's looking good. Okay, so what do we got? David Crane, late season calling. What's some go-to calls? I'll be calling extra pack. What do you recommend? What's some go-to calls? I assume you're meaning sounds. So late season, I primarily focus on cow sounds. In fact, right before this, I did a lesson with Charles. He sent me a message last night, and tonight's lesson was actually when I open up my playbook and teach him what I do out in the field. So he sent me a text yesterday, said, hey, I'm going out in the morning. What should I do? And so we got on the phone, and I told him, this is what you should do. And he had a great experience. He actually had a group of cows coming down the trail from his right, and he actually had a big 7x7 bull coming up from his left. The bull was at 30 yards. He just didn't have a shot at that time, and so a couple of minutes went by, and then he decided to kind of take 2 steps to the left to kind of get a shot angle, and both the bull and the cows saw him move and busted out. But what did I tell him to do? Just 3 or 4 soft cow calls. Wait 4 or 5 minutes. Repeat those cow calls again. Wait 4 or 5 minutes. Repeat those again. Now, I told him to first find fresh sign. Then sit down and do this and stay there for hour, hour and a half. If nothing comes in, then get up, move quite a ways, sit down and do it again, and just repeat that pattern. He said he found the fresh sign, he sat down, and within 25 minutes, these elk were coming from both sides. So, okay. So, David, hopefully that answers your question. Chad, I like the idea of keeping a daily journal. It's a great tool. So, it really, really is. And it's one of the things that will really help you guys shorten the learning curve. So, Mountain Tough Outdoors, eek, tests. Yeah, I know, nobody likes that sound, but that's the first thing that popped into my head. David Crane, Chad, I do it. It works. I do pros of my day and cons. Perfect. Okay, Bernie, Tooth of the Arrow are bulletproof. You have to try them. Bernie, that's another head that performed really, really well in the broadhead testing that we did over in Etna, Wyoming this year. In fact, I did go ahead and bring a pack of the Tooth of the Arrow with me. I wasn't going to use them for elk. I was going to stay with my QAD Exodus, but I did um, break out the tooth of the arrow on my antelope hunt. But because of time constraints on that, I ended up abandoning the bow and just going with the rifle. So, but yeah, the tooth of the arrow is another good head. The only thing about the tooth of the arrow is their size, but they do fly great. They're tough, absolutely. So, okay. Dang it. Tony Walker, thanks. You're welcome. Okay. Mountain Tough. I love Lime OKSU. Dang it, guys. I am sorry. I think from doing the I had to choke down some dinner real quick and then do that lesson earlier. Now I think it's all coming to haunt me again. Greg, invaluable knowledge. Keepsake in that journal. Yep. Okay, Luminox. Do the lighted knocks change your FOC? Dwayne, yes. Lighted knocks are a little bit heavier, but they're not going to change it that drastically. So I wouldn't be too concerned about changing your FOC that much by switching to a lighted knock. Bob Mack, green stomach matter, not my favorite. I don't think anybody really wants to deal with green stomach matter, but unfortunately things happen. So Raymond Clark, thank you. You're very welcome. Chad, how early will you start your scouting? It really depends on the winter and how the snow is coming off. I mean, I really don't know what we're going to have this winter the way it's tracking right now. It doesn't look like it's going to be much. But usually I will kind of use spring turkey and spring bear as an excuse to get up and kind of do some scouting for elk. I'm really bear hunting or I'm really turkey hunting with the underlying intention of scouting for elk. But really for setting trail cameras out, it's usually mid-June time frame when I'll start putting cameras out and really start my hikes in the hunting area, getting up on elevated platforms to where I could, really start glassing. So middle of June, end of June, and then kind of run that through July and August. And then as soon as the season starts, I normally pull my trail cameras. So you have a lot more people hitting the woods and just asking for more problems of cameras to be damaged or stolen. So, and plus if we check that area off as the elk have moved out, I don't have to go back in there to pull a camera. I already did. So, okay, Chris, as well as blood drawn and arrow recovery. Yep. So Greg, practice both. Never know what the situation dictates. Yeah, and even when you're Benito prone, you know what? If you can lie prone, if you can draw your bow, anchor, and get a good arrow flight, more power to you. Try it sitting on your rear end and try to draw your bow. So another thing when you guys are practicing too, it's not just stand up or kneel down, but also kind of get at some odd angles, leaning over, like maybe you got to lean around a branch or something. Just know how your equipment's going to perform. So, okay, Bob Mack, feel stuck when I'm kneeling. Some people just don't like to kneel. They would rather stand, and I completely understand that. But there are times that kneeling is a better option. See, Matt Lux, I prefer to kneel, but I'm all right with standing. Yeah, it's funny. We all have one that we prefer. And the thing that I've noticed is the guys that really prefer to kneel, it's automatic. As soon as they get to where they're going to set up, they immediately drop to that knee. They don't even think about it. So, Scott, I practice both as well as sitting and leaning. Never know. Exactly. David Crane, yeah, I need to do both. Don't think there is a benefit to one or the other. You just need to make an ethical shot. Bingo. Andy, I practice all positions and I practice holding my bow at full draw for a long period of time. Perfect. GC calls, match the surrounding and situation, rings a bell. Yeah, I think we've talked about that a time or two. Jerry, after 9 days on the mountain, all my joints snapped, crackled, and popped. Some of us have that every day. So, okay, Scott, how much do you rake trees and break branches when calling? Quite a bit, actually, within the breeding sequence. In fact, Charles and I were talking about that tonight. In fact, Scott, you and I are going to talk about that next week in our next lesson. So we're going to talk about the breeding sequence, and we're going to talk about raking trees. Raking is one of those sounds that is synonymous with the rut. So it's really the time of year that they do it. But it's something that can show dominance. It's something that can display for the cows. So it's an effective non-verbal call that can have great effect. In fact, I've had some bulls where I've thrown every sound I know at them with no responses, and the moment I rake, bang, they just pop off. And it's a hot button for a lot of bulls. So raking is a very, very effective tool to add into your box there. So Eric Wilson, good evening. How you doing, bud? David Crane, yes. John Oliver, late but I am here. Welcome. Matthew Tiller, using shadows while standing seems to help me. Half in, half out of the shadows. You know what? That's a great segue, Matthew, into our next one, which is the shooter setup. So sun versus shadow. Okay, shadows are the better option. So because when you're in the sun, your face lights up, just like my face is lit up right now with all these lights. Same thing happens with sunlight. When you're in the shadow, it darkens your face. It actually extends the shadow from the hat that you're wearing and helps mask your face. The other nice thing about the shadows is slow, deliberate movements are harder to detect in shadows than they are in bright sunlight. The number one mistake that I see new hunters make or hear new hunters make when it comes to archery is they set up behind something, behind a bush or behind a tree, because they think that if they set up in front of it, the elk is going to see them. Trust your camouflage. We talked about this, I think, back in August about trusting your camouflage. Set up in front of something, in front of a tree, in front of a bank of bushes. What you're merely trying to do is just break up the silhouette, the outline of the human body. When you're set up in front of something with a good backdrop in the shadow, you blend into all that. As long as you haven't moved, you haven't made any noise, you haven't given away your position at all, if you have a caller back behind you, that elk does not even know you're there. But I've heard it before where they're like, oh, that bull pegged me. How? He didn't know you were there. He didn't see you. He didn't smell you. Really, if that caller is directly behind you, he's actually looking through you, trying to see that elk that made the noise back there. So, best recommendation is in the shadow and in front of something to break out your outline. So, okay. Best moment to draw as the elk is coming in. Daniel. Best moment to draw is when his eyes are behind a tree. So, their field of view is huge. They can pick up a lot on peripheral, because you understand those eyes, they're not on the front of the head like us, they're on the kind of on the sides a little bit, so their peripheral vision is a lot better than ours. So when that bull walks behind a tree, so when you're the shooter and you get up there and you set up, you're picking which areas that bull's coming in, you're getting your ranges, there's my 20 yard, there's my 30 yard, there's my 40 yard, but also do a scan of the area of the different routes that you think that elk may come in. And as you're picking those routes, start picking your draw trees. When that bull gets to there, I'm going to draw. If he comes in on that path and he gets to there, I'm going to draw. That way you have it all predetermined. And don't just do it once. As you're scanning looking for that elk, continue to 20-yard tree, 30-yard tree. That's my 20-yard draw tree. That's my 30-yard draw tree. If he comes in here, there's my draw tree. Do it over and over and over again in your mind. So when that elk finally does commit and he does come in, a lot of this stuff becomes automatic. You don't have to try to figure it out as it's happening. You've already pre-planned ahead of time. It'll make all the difference in the world. So Daniel, hopefully that answered your question. So thank you. Chad, I just switched from Exodus to the Magnus Black Hornets. Chad, I have a couple of buddies that shoot the Magnus. I've heard great things about them. I have not personally shot them, so I can't say one way or another on them. So Jay, bear hunting all the way. Hillbilly Hebrew, love Muzzy Tro car fixed. Actually improved my accuracy and confidence when I switched from practice tips. Let's touch on that a little bit. So, because that's the big debate, fixed blade versus expandables. Expandables fly like field points. Well, guess what? If your bow is properly tuned, your fixed blade is going to fly just like your field points also. So if you're shooting field points, you screw on broadheads and your broadheads are not hitting the same place as your field points are, your bow is out of tune somewhere. You need to get that bow tuned back in. Yeah, you can walk back tuned to where you're moving the rest and bringing, you know, that field point and that broadhead together, but why not go to a pro shop and make sure that maybe one of your cams is out of time. So have that checked first to see if that helps, then start doing the walk back tune. Jerry, sometimes you don't have an option to draw your bow without the elk seeing you. What would you recommend on drawing your bow in this scenario? It does happen sometimes. So that's why I recommend shooting a poundage that you can draw slowly and smoothly. Not something that you have to sky draw or anything like that. So something you can draw smoothly, slowly. You'll be amazed. In fact, this bull this year, 16 yards, looking right directly at me. I was able to completely draw, anchor, settle the pin, and sit there for a minute waiting for my Bryce's bow to go off before I shot. So, Bryce Scott, if you can teach me to shoot behind me, we would all tag out. That happened a few times this year, yeah. Elk never come in exactly where you want them. Tony Walker, how about from a tree stand? I'm not much of a tree stand guy. I don't have the patience for it. I do have guys that will sit all day long from sunup till sundown in a tree stand. They will still do some slight light calling from a tree stand. So by all means, if you want to break out the breeding sequence from the tree stand, I don't see why it wouldn't work. In fact, it might be a little more effective because you're elevated and your scent's going to be kind of above the elk. So you'll be good on that aspect. Where are we at? 42 minutes. I guess we should announce the Facebook winner. Okay, so Facebook, 3,351 followers. Thank you, everyone. I greatly appreciate the support on both the YouTube channel and the Facebook page. As I mentioned, this individual was one of our very first. In fact, he was number 45 that liked our page. Mr. Travis Green from North Idaho, congratulations. You are the Facebook winner of the call pack. So send me an email at michael@elkcallingacademy.com with your shipping address and your shirt size. So thank you for everybody. We're still going to go. We still have a couple more topics and some more questions to answer. But there's the two winners. Congratulations to you guys. I will give them about a 10-day window. If I have not heard from them in 10 days, I will go ahead and draw another winner and then announce it. So it won't be next week. It would be the week after. So anyways, congratulations, getting some great call packages together. One other piece of news. So last week we were talking about the 3 new reeds from Native by Carlton, the 1.5 light, the 1.5 heavy, and the double. A couple of you guys asked why not offer in a 3-pack. Mark Carlton and I got together last Friday. We discussed it. You guys asked for it. We're going to give it to you. We are going to offer those in a 3-pack for those of you that want it. The only condition is the 3-packs are only going to be available from Elk Calling Academy directly or Native by Carlton directly. The 3-pack will not be available anyplace else. The reeds are not going to be released until spring. Probably more so about February time frame at the Western Hunting Conservation Expo. So there you go, guys. You asked for a 3-pack. We're going to give it to you on that one. So, okay, let's get back to some questions. Raymond Clark, what do you use when raking? That is the cool thing. They are all over the forest. I just pick up sticks that are laying on the ground. Now, my hunting partners can attest to this. Once you find a good raking stick, one that's sturdy enough that you can really get on that tree, you can do some good heavy raking and it's not going to break apart, I will take that stick and I will lean it up against that tree. Now, I never stand in the same place when I'm calling and doing these routines. I'm moving around. So it's not uncommon when you see me getting done with a breeding sequence that I might have 4 or 5 sticks leaning up on trees in there. It makes it a lot easier than packing that stick around to tree to tree to tree to tree. Just move to the different tree, and plus I'm usually calling and doing something as I'm moving from one tree to the next. So just find a stick. So, okay, Jason O'Hare, I'm a shadow in front of the tree guy. Perfect. Outdoor hunting addiction. Do you rake then immediately call or wait a bit? You know, actually, Jack, on that one, we'll really get into the guts of that when you and I do our lesson together. I'll kind of walk you through the whole routine. But short answer is it's a mix. Sometimes I call before I rake. Sometimes I call after I rake, and sometimes I rake only. So it's just kind of a mixture. It's kind of more of a feeling thing when you're kind of getting into it. So, but there's not one set cookie cutter that says call, rake, or rake, call. So there's just different ways you can go about that. David Crane, Ray, use anything you can. Large stick. Yep, perfect. So Luke, sorry I'm late. How's everyone doing? Luke, welcome. Bernie, I practice all 3, sitting, standing, and kneeling. Mark Anderson, how do you feel about face painting and scent blockers? Okay, great question. First off, face masks. Can't stand them. So for me, because I do kind of a 3-point anchoring system. So, you know, this knuckle right here underneath my jawbone, the string kind of in the corner of my mouth, and then the tip of my nose on the string. So I have to feel all 3 of those things to know that I'm anchored exactly the same way every time. Face mask won't allow me to do that. I have used face paints in the past. The only problem is with face paints, most of them is, God, they just feel caked on and they're really, really hard to get off, or they go on really easy and then they sweat off. This year at the Western Hunting Conservation Expo, I got to know the Nature's Paint crew, actually picked up some of their stuff, really, really like it. It's easy on, easy off. I don't feel caked. I can still sweat, I can still do everything. It stays there pretty dang good. So if you are going to use face paint, I really recommend the Nature's face paint. As far as scent blockers, I will spray a little bit of scent killer. So biggest thing I do when I get back to camp is usually I get out of my hunting clothes. I normally have a line in between a couple of trees. It's kind of a larger rope that's generally used for a high line for horses, but I'll stretch that between a couple of trees as kind of a clothesline. I'll take my camo off, throw it on that, and every couple of days I'll spray it down with scent killer. So, but I don't use scent killer every day. In fact, if you actually read the back of scent killer, it's not meant to be used every day. So, but as far as cover scents, I think is what you're talking about with scent blockers, I don't really use them. I have used them in the past. Heck, I used to spray elk urine on me. The only problem with that is you're smelling elk every day. You're covering a ton of miles because you think you're an elk every day, but in reality you're just hunting yourself. So let's see. And really the thing on that is play the wind. The wind is your biggest ally. If you play the wind right, use the wind right. The thing to remember too is we're never ever going to be 100% scent free. It's just never going to happen. So play the wind. So in fact, Freddie, unless you stink and the wind isn't right. I use UV killers on all my camo. Yes, so I use actually a lot of the dead downwind products for washing my camo and scent elimination. So Mark, watch the born guys. The scent blockers might not work. It's all on the wind. So, especially if you're backcountry hunting, I mean, after a couple of days, to put it bluntly, you're gonna stink. So, and what I mean by that is these guys are in hunts for days and they don't wash. Yeah, no, it's playing the wind. It's keeping the wind in your favor. So, okay, John Oliver. Okay, so have you ever called a bull in, have it hang up, try, excuse me, to get him in, then get up and move on, and he follows you for 200 yards? Would you try to call him in again or leave him? Okay, first answer. Would I try to call him in again? Absolutely. He followed you for a reason. Now, the biggest question is, why did he hang up? What was it? Did he get to a point that he thought he should be able to see the elk that's making the noise? Or was there something between you and him that he didn't want to cross? Was there a bunch of blowdowns? Was there an open meadow? Was there a wall of brush? Typically, when a bull hangs up, it's either one, he thinks he should be able to see the elk that's making the noise, or two, there's something that he doesn't want to cross, or three, he has cows and he's moved that max distance away from them and he's not willing to come any farther. The fact that he followed you 200 yards kind of tells me that he probably didn't have cows, so your chances of calling that bull in are pretty good. It all depends on your setups and setting your shooter up at that hang-up point. And we've talked about that on past episodes. The critical thing with setups is setting up that shooter at that location that is the hang-up spot where you think that bull is going to stop because he thinks he should be able to see the caller, that elk making the noise. So, all right, Andy, off to bed. Thanks for your knowledge, Michael Batiste. Hopefully I can start doing your class now. Yeah, now that late season archery is done, Andy, get a hold of me and we'll get you on the schedule. We'll get you going. Scott, another Scott? No, I was talking. Oh, yes, I was. It was Scott Schmid. So sorry, I'll start saying last names. We got a couple of Scotts in here. So Jeremy Ansel, been trying to get a deeper tone when bugling to no avail. Any tips? So Jeremy, it could be a couple of different things. It could be that the reed that you're using. If you're using a light latex reed with a light stretch, those typically have a higher pitch to them, and you're going to have a tough time trying to get deeper tones out of them. If you're trying to get deeper tones at the end of your bugle, that's with your voice, adding your voice in, doing different things like that, and really trying to get as deep as possible on your voice as you can. Doing that through a grunt tube is really going to resonate and add you a lot more depth. But if it's the depth to the tones or the notes, it's probably your reed, and you just need to try a different reed. So, all right, sweet. Congrats, Travis. Congrats, winners. If you don't claim it, it's GC's. You know, my wife wanted me to tell you guys that actually her name was a name that I had drawn, and I was just going to keep one of the boxes here for myself, but I didn't think you guys would let me do that. So, all right, but there was a chance that her name could have gotten drawn. So, all right, Mike Boyd, congratulations, guys. Greg, boom. Jake Hawley, I want a 3-pack. Bryce Scott, love the 1.5 light. So Bryce, you actually did some calling on the 1.5 light. So Bryce and his son Brandon are two of my hunting partners. They were over here a couple of nights ago, and I gave them a 1.5 light, 1.5 heavy, and the double for them to play with. So yeah, that 1.5 light, I mean, that thing just flat out sings and takes no pressure at all. So Greg, I'm going to pester you in Salt Lake City on that 3-pack. Ha, ha, ha. Greg, I welcome that. So, Jay, so am I. Guys, absolutely. I am going to be spending quite a bit of time in the booth with Native, along with other booths. So, absolutely. Come by, see me. Would love to meet you guys in person. And, yeah, I'm sure we could probably work something out on the 3-pack. So, Matthew, have you ever tried carrying a shed horn and showing it as an attractant? I've never carried it. I thought about it, especially as a raking tool. But it's one of those things that it's one more item to carry, and especially when you get a bull down on the ground and you load your pack with meat and you're trying to come out hands-free. It's just one more thing to try to attach on, and one more thing to carry back out. So no, I haven't done it. So I know a few years ago there was a bugle that was called the rake and break bugle that was designed to, you know, use the bell end of it on the bark of the tree, and you kind of rolled your hand and it simulated raking. And really what it was a big Gatorade bottle that they cut the end off of. May have given you guys something to try there for raking. So all right, Jerry Dixon, great episode tonight, Michael. Thanks. Thank you very much. So Jason O'Hare, will you be at the Expo in Colorado? At this time, no, I do not have plans of going to SCI in Colorado, but you never know what the future may hold. Lori, Oregon draw weight requirement for elk is 50 pounds. They are talking about lowering it. How do you feel about that? You know, I've seen elk killed with a 45-pound recurve. So as long as there's enough kinetic energy and you have your setup right, meaning the lower weight with the arrow and the weight of the arrow for the kinetic energy, it depends how much they're lowering it. I wouldn't go, I wouldn't be comfortable or be a supporter of it dropping too much below 50. So yeah, maybe 45 is about as low as I would say. So Stephanie, you really love Nature's Paint. Yeah, it's a great product. Scott Schmid, charcoal from an old campfire makes good face paint. Yes, it does. Actually, if you're hunting an old burn, you can actually, you know, get some charcoal and paint your face up there too. Mark Anderson, thank you. Robert Gonzalez, elk vocalize low call type while they rake trees. You need to be close to hear it, but they can hear it, so I vocalize like that too. Yeah, Robert makes a great point right there. You know, elk actually have a ton of vocalizations that is so soft. We've talked about it in the past that elk can vocalize mouth open or mouth closed. When that vocalization is mouth closed, it's coming out of their nasal passages, and it's very, very soft and subtle. It's not something that you're going to hear from a long ways away. But when you really get close up, you can hear a lot of vocalizations that you really don't realize that are doing. Little pops, little huffs, little small little moans. So there's a lot more sounds out there than just loud ripping bugles. And that's what really contributes a lot more to the success is learning some of those sounds and what they mean and when to use them. So Mark Anderson, I'm a big believer in playing the wind. You have to. So if you don't play the wind, you're going to get smelt every time. Charles, ever roll around in a dry walla for cover scent? I may have in a past, yeah, rolled around. One thing I also do is if I find a bed with a fresh pea spot, kick my boots back and forth in it and really rub that dirt up on the top of my boots. So yeah, I'll do some of that from time to time. So I have hunted with a couple of guys that we'd find fresh beds with fresh pea spots. They would actually get down and lay in that bed and roll around. To me, again, then you're covered in that elk scent and you're constantly smelling that elk scent, and it's hard to tell whether you're smelling yourself or really smelling a live elk. So where are we at? Holy cow, guys, we are at an hour. So okay, Friday's video is on the install and review of the Quivalizer from Option Archery. Be sure to check that out. My first take and first impression, I've been shooting with it for a few days. I am very, very impressed with the Quivalizer. So I've shot a little longer stabilizer anyways. I'm used to that. But having the ability to take that longer stabilizer off and put it as a normal quiver when I want to attach the bow to the back of my pack is a huge advantage. But also the thing that I noticed too is when I'm shooting with the Quivalizer out front, so, and I'll talk about this in the video, there's a pattern that we all have with our pin, and depending on the stabilization that we use, that pattern will either be fast or it will go slow. The Quivalizer does a really good job of slowing that pattern down so that your pin stays on target longer. So be sure you come back Friday and check out the Quivalizer video. And who knows, I may work with Option Archery about maybe doing a giveaway for a Quivalizer coming up. You never know. So All right, let's go through a few more questions here real quick. You guys have been awesome tonight. John Oliver, it was thick trees with a trail. He could have gone down. Yeah, he was alone. Yeah, then, you know, John, and that, I just think he got to where he thinks he should have been able to see that elk and he wasn't going to come any farther. So sometimes, yeah, you just have to go quiet, let him kind of lose interest. You move to a new spot, and then you re-engage and restart working him to get him to come in. So Dwayne Dardis, I've walked up on several beds that I could smell the elk. How long does the scent stay noticeable to the human nose? Man, it could stay for 24 hours or more, because you got to understand that that pee is getting soaked into that dirt, so it could stay for a little while. So Scott Anstein, finally starting to get 4 notes on my read, doing my homework. Perfect. Love to hear that. Looking forward to next week to see how you're coming along. So Mark Anderson, congratulations to the winner. Benito, you're going to be coming to the Sportsman Show in Portland this coming year. Would be awesome if you did. Benito, I was actually talking about that yesterday with Bendable Products. Bendable Products just came out with a new product that is a grunt tube holder that you have the ability to attach it to different parts of your pack. I just got a couple of them in a couple of days ago. I've started playing with it. It's really cool. I will be doing a video on that so you guys can see it. But if I don't make it to Portland, definitely go by the Bendable Products booth and check out their new grunt tube holder. So Mark Anderson, when is the Western Show and where is it? It is February 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. It is in Salt Lake City, Utah. I will be getting in early on the 13th, kind of helping set up a couple of booths. Now, since that is Wednesday the 13th, I am trying to arrange a special Wapiti Wednesday live Q&A that night with a special guest or two. More info on that when we get closer. Okay, Greg. Salt Palace in Salt Lake, Valentine's weekend. Daniel, outstanding info, strong work, Michael. Thank you. Daniel, I appreciate that. Oregon is dropping to 40-pound draw weight max, not a favor. No, I don't like that. Washington State is 40 or 42. Raymond Clark, my 10-year-old son, and hunted elk with a 45-pound bow, but I won't allow him to shoot past 30. See, that's the thing. You got to have those parameters. You got to have those things. Glenn, thank you for your knowledge. Glenn, thanks for tuning in. So, John, do you ever help people set up to do a session, not so tech savvy, want to do a session? Yeah, you know, John, send me an email. We can talk about it and get something figured out. So, Freddie, I'll check them Bendable Products, maybe GC holder because it's very bulky. Yes, it is. Yeah, the game changers extremely. So, okay, talked about Friday night's video, gave away. I will get the order going on the journals, let you guys know about that. Again, congratulations to the winners. Guys, thank you. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it, guys. As always, keep calling, keep practicing, but most importantly, have fun, enjoy it. For those of you guys wanting the email, whether you're the winners or you want to email me about lessons, it's Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, at elkcallingacademy.com. So if you're on the YouTube page, if you go to my homepage, you'll see up in the banner, there's icons for Instagram, Facebook, Google Plus. You can pretty much click on Instagram or that Facebook. It'll take you over to our pages, and our email address is there. So, okay, say email again. Perfect. Okay, Greg, thanks for all you do for making this possible. Can't think of a better way to spend a Wednesday. Alberta is 40 pounds, but yeah, I totally have to limit your range. Lucas, very good point. GC calls, great stuff today, brother. Luke, thanks again. Jay, thanks again. All right, guys, I am going to sign off. So again, thanks for tuning in tonight. Congratulations to the winner. We will see you guys next week on the next episode of Wapiti Wednesday Q&A, brought to you by Elk Calling Academy. Have a great week, guys.